Could you please give your list of who you think the current top 15 strongest characters in Jujutsu Kaisen are? Manga spoilers are allowed, characters that are unalived are allowed, basically everything is allowed. And Triple Sokka, sure, I'd be happy to do that for you, and thank you for the support. One thing I always like to say though is I'm not a power scaler, I don't like power scaling, I'm not digging into the minutia of the feats and what that implies, I'm just a story analyst, right? So that's where my list is coming from, don't yell at me too hard. Alright, so I'm actually going to start at the top with number 1 and go down to number 15 because I feel like that's more interesting because everybody knows who's at the top here. It shouldn't be different on anyone's lists at this point. And also, since I'm not a power scaler, I don't like giving hard strength definitions here. As you can see, we have some ties on this list. So I did my best, alright? The people on the tied tiers are just really close, all things considered. But anyway, let's get started. So, first place, Sukuna. Obviously no surprise. Second place, Gojo. No one else is even near them. So just consider like a gulf between number 2 and everyone else. But next, we've got our first set of ties, right? So for 3, 4, and 5, I think we've got Kenjaku, Yuta Akotsu, and Kashimo, all pretty relative to one another. Now, I think Akotsu has obviously got the biggest bag of tricks, but he's less experienced than the other two. So that's why I'm not just straight up putting him above the others. Obviously, he took out Kenjaku, but he kind of surprised him. I've made videos about all of these subjects before, but I'm going to consider all of those three basically on the same level. Next, we've got another set of ties for 6, 7, and 8, and there we've got the heavenly restricted users and Yuji, who might also fit into that category, honestly. But Maki, Toji, Yuji, right? And honestly, when you're watching this video, I don't know, but when I'm recording it was right after Yuji's awakening tease. So give me another chapter and Yuji might go even higher. And I think by the end of the story, he will definitely be higher. Not necessarily higher than 1 or 2, but I think he could probably be number 3 pretty comfortable. But for now, he is where he is. He built different, right? He's got RCT, he's got blood manipulation, he's got soul punches, and he probably is going to have a few more tricks before it's all said and done. But for now, I think he fits comfortably with the heavenly restrictions, which Maki is showcasing their true potential right now. So next up, we have yet another tie, and here I'm going to slot in Yuki and Yorozu, the special grades, right? I don't know if it was ever officially said that Yorozu would have been a special grade, but I think she would have been. And Yuki is obviously built different. That mass technique is crazy. The black hole is a win condition no matter who she's fighting if she just wants to let loose. But, you know, she's got to take out everybody if she does that. But still, that's strength, right? Next up, we have our last tie. So we can, stop getting mad at me for the ties after this. But I've got Hakari and Uruume. This one's tough because, Hakari's jackpot is crazy, but he doesn't necessarily pack the punch to deal with some of these other heavy hitters, even if they can't take him out, given the jackpot. So the reason he's so low is because I think that given enough time, some of these heavy hitters will take him out. And Uruume, I'm just putting them on par with him since they've been kind of deadlocked for the last 20 chapters. We don't really know Uruume's ceiling other than the fact that Gojo one-shot them, right? So next up, we've got Mr. Potential, not Megami, but Higuruma, the one who is the most prodigious since Gojo, right? And this man has only been a sorcerer for a number of months. Can you imagine if he actually had years to hone his craft, like basically everyone else here not named Yuji? I think he could definitely be way higher if he just had the time. But given what he showed us in such a short amount of time, I'm putting him up here. Next, we've got Angel. And Angel could really go a few other places in this list, honestly. And I'm talking about Heian era Angel. So not Angel that's sharing a body with Hannah, but full-fledged prime Angel. That curse technique is just something else. Nullification, right? She could definitely do some crazy things to a lot of people on this list potentially, but we just don't have enough information to truly know how much of a problem she was. So for now, we're putting her at 14, but honestly, I could see her higher. And then finally, this one was tough because there were so many people that I wanted to put in the top 15, but I felt like I had to give this spot, to Takaba, just because that curse technique is so broken, right? The fact that, the narrator even mentions that it rivals gojo. Now, he doesn't know how to control it. He's not even fully aware of it, right? And if he was, it might not work. So it's really hard to quantify his strength, but he was basically going toe to toe with Kenjaku, and Kenjaku said, if this keeps up, I'm going to lose, right? So this man has the potential to rival the strongest in the verse, but his technique's kind of wonky, so it's not consistent, right? So that would be my list. All right, so before we commence with an appropriate level of yelling at me in the comments, letting me know your opinions, let me tackle this question from Josue, that is Takaba versus Sukuna, who would win? And since we were just talking about Takaba, I figured this would be the perfect time to slot this in. And Sukuna slams, like he destroys Takaba, because we saw Kenjaku get the best of him, and Sukuna clearly could as well, because he is far stronger than Kenjaku, and I think he has a sufficient battle IQ to deduce the same things Kenjaku did and ultimately defeat Takaba. Now, we were just talking about how Takaba's curse technique works, that he doesn't have an awareness of it, and he can't just straight up manipulate it, right? If he could, then Takaba would win, because he could just say, man, sure would be funny if Sukuna lost, and he would lose, right? But Takaba doesn't have that kind of meta knowledge of his own curse technique, so for that reason, Sukuna would ultimately win.